Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Our research topic is the impact of using appropriate material when teaching very young learners. The presenters are Professors Olga, Lidia, Sanchez, Cruz, and María del Pilar, Balbuena, Ortega. Let's start talking about our research by saying that in 2006, English started to be officially taught in public kindergartens, thanks to the Programa Nacional de Inglés, PNIEF, and later it was called PRONI. And the main objective is to consolidate the process of teaching and learning a foreign language in public schools. Then kindergartens, public kindergartens have the opportunity to receive English classes, and then these children have this opportunity. And then teachers have to consider all the characteristics of these children. We know that they are very curious and they have a natural desire to touch, feel, play with everything. There are many misunderstandings about teaching children because people think that teaching very young learners is easy, but it is not. It is a complex process, especially because teachers must understand the way children see the world, the way they see the world, the way they learned. And that is why they have to look for different techniques that help children understand what is being said or explained in the target language. Preschool teachers then are expected to increase the quality of material, the kind of materials they prepare for these kids. And the idea is to develop materials for children's learning and development. The type of materials then have to be interesting for them, age appropriate, offer a variety and choice, and arrange in such a way as to encourage independence and creativity. The importance then of this research lies on exploring the way preschoolers learn English by using different techniques and types of materials, promoting the use of playful activities and didactic material to teach English at preschool level, and understand the impact of the material when teaching very young learners. Our research question then is the following. What is the impact of using appropriate material when teaching very young learners? And then from this research question, our main aim emerges to know the impact of using appropriate material when teaching very young learners. Let's review what the experts have said about teaching children, and let's start by analyzing the characteristics of children. The three main authors or the experts that have investigated a lot about children is Piaget, Vygotsky, and Bronner. Piaget talks about this idea of the stages of maturational development. He talks about that, and he said that children are active learners and thinkers. Piaget mentions that children construct an understanding of the world around them by experiencing what they already know and what they discovered. Vygotsky mentioned the social interaction as one of the most important elements. So children need to interact with the others for learning. He talks about the zone of proximal development and this idea of being held by an adult and then go to the next stage of learning. Bronner established this idea of establishing routine or talked about that children learn effectively through scaffolding by orals. Then preschoolers learn by physical activities, as these authors mentioned. They learn from what they see and hear, and they need to have all 5 senses stimulated. That's why teaching children is not easy, because we have to consider all these aspects that are mentioned by the experts. Then Brunner also mentioned, he classified the representation of the learning of children in this way, in 3 ways. The first one is enactive representation, action-based, from 0 to 1 year. Iconic representation, image-based, from 1 to 6 years. And symbolic representation, language-based, from 7 years and up. And at this last stage, we have to think about children who are in elementary school and they start with the process of reading and writing. So elective then has to focus on learning through movements and actions, playing with the book, for example, playing and moving. And iconic, learn through images of icons. And symbolic, that learn through abstract symbols. And then when we talk about this last stage, as I mentioned before, from 7 years and up, we talk about the idea of understanding, and then children start reading and writing too. From this, then we have to adapt the materials we are using for teaching them, considering children ages, of course, and children's development. This is classified into 3 main aspects. The first one, concrete material and structure, that has to do with the material, recycled material with natural resources like plastic, seeds, soil, etc. The concrete material structure that has to do with the material that is designed for in fabrics like plastic blocks and things like that. And finally, the representative graphic material that has to do with real objects, which are presented through photos, images, etc. So the methodology we used to carry out this research was a qualitative one, and as most of you know, or some of you know, right? It is described as to explore people's life histories or everyday behavior. Then qualitative method may be flavor. That is Silverman quotation. And within this qualitative research, we use case study, and then we have the definition of what case study is: a situation of occurrence that is an instance or example of something, what actually exists or happens, used to indicate that something is true or certain regardless of what has happened or been said. Also by Silverman. The methodology then, this research was carried out in a public kindergarten in Jalapa, Veracruz. We have the morning and afternoon shift groups, and the participants were 2 teachers, and these teachers had between 8 and 9 years of experience working with preschoolers. And the students we investigated, or we did the research, were between 14 and 15 students and preschoolers from 4 to 5 years old. And 2 groups, A and B, one from the morning shift and the other one from the afternoon shift. The instruments we used for carrying out our research were the first one, observations, 3 each, and a semi-structured interview, and then those were the instruments we used for carrying out our research. And then semi-structured interviews are often to solve data source. That's why it was very important, because it's not easy to interview children, but teachers, right? And observe what they were doing with the material they were supposed to use for teaching these kids. And well, the questions in this type of interview need to be prepared in advance. That's why we consider to be the suitable one for this research. And these questions we designed were open-ended, and the subsequent questions emerged during the interview.
The data collection procedure consisted of observing and interviewing 2 teachers to describe the impact of teaching materials when working with little children. After analyzing the data, we came up with 3 categories. The first one is the importance of exploiting teaching material. As we can see, we have poster, flashcards, songs versus realia, puppets, videos, and songs. In this case, what we conclude is that it's not only the fact of creating attractive material for children, because as we can see, teacher A was excited and he really liked to teach the kids, but he only used flashcards, posters, and songs. And children realized that the class became routinary. So sometimes they lost interest because it was always the same. The teacher showed the posters or the flashcards and then asked them to repeat or point at something. So it became a routine. Then in the other group, teacher B, children were more curious about what the teacher brought every day because it was not only realia, puppets, videos, and songs. The idea of moving, singing, and changing the pace every moment helped the children to be more motivated. So what we can conclude here is not only the importance of creating attractive material for children, but also the aspect of being motivated and liking to move with the kids. The second category is the influence of personality on teaching and teaching material. Here again, it's not only the fact that the teacher creates material which is interesting or attractive, but also the importance of the personality of the teacher. Because when the teacher is kind, but it's introverted, probably he is afraid of moving with the kids, singing with the kids, playing with the kids. And this is what children like because they want to move in the same way as the teacher. So sometimes not playing with the kids doesn't allow them to learn. On the other hand, we had the teacher B, who was more extroverted, more creative, and willing to play. Children seemed to enjoy more the class, and as a result, they seemed to learn more because they were more enthusiastic and curious about what they were doing. So they were more attentive and more motivated in the class. The teacher was very kind and patient. However, she was quiet and reserved, which was teacher A, and she didn't motivate the children enough to be interested in the class. The third category was the children's lack of knowledge of the world through English. In other words, what we can see here is not only the fact that children learn through the things they do in the class, but also the background knowledge they have. Sometimes it was not easy for the teacher to teach new words because it was difficult for the children to know what they were talking about because they didn't know the word even in Spanish. So the use of flashcards or posters was very useful. So in some cases, when the teacher prepared some material or some vocabulary, it was necessary to have the visual objects for the kids to learn better. So we have some examples here. Son and daughter were not easy, contrary to brother and sister. Rooster was a difficult in contrast to chicken. So the idea here is that the teacher has to be aware of some lack of knowledge in the children's world because they are very young and they need to be ready to learn the words that they already know. Finally, we can conclude that it's not easy to work with children, and the teaching material has to have a big impact on the children's learning. The teaching material needs to be creative and requires some effort from the teacher. But it's not only the creativity that the teacher needs, but also the like to move in the class with the kids, to be able and willing to play with children. The teaching material needs to be open to children's spontaneity because children are very curious and they like to ask, move, and touch. This is very important for the teacher to be aware of. Children like to move, touch, sing, and even try. So teaching materials should respond to it. Teaching materials should enhance interaction to consolidate learning, not only interaction among the kids, but also interactions with the teacher, because the teacher at that age is a very important figure for the little children. As limitation and further research, we can say that we had lack of time to observe and explore classrooms. The teacher's availability. It was not always easy to find a teacher for some questions to answer. Also, we would like to study teaching material for online classes. Now, during this pandemic, it would be very interesting to see how little kids respond to online material. And also another for the research point that we would like to explore is the response of all the children to this material, because one thing is little kids from 5 to 6 years old to older children like 7 to 9, for example, who become or have different personalities. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation. This would be the end. We hope you had enjoyed and you had found it very interesting. Thank you.